Hello, dear students. That is the lecture for the week 2. In this lecture, we will know some different protocols and networks. So, first of all, we have to know what are the networks. And in this lecture, we are heading towards the knowledge of networks. What is the definition of network? And what is the applications of network? So, a network is the interconnection of a set of devices capable of communication. That means, that means if we just think about this, what is the network, right? There's the interconnection of a set of devices. That is the interconnection of a set of devices capable of communication, which is capable of communication. So network is the interconnection of set of devices. That means if that is a transmitter and if that is a receiver. So there may be interconnections between these two. There may be fiber optic cable. There may be, you can say fiber optic cable. You can say using a LAN or anything else. So interconnection of the set of the devices that will be capable of communication, that is known as network. Okay. In this definition, a device can be a host or an end system, as it is as it is sometimes called, such as a large computer, desktop, laptop, workstation, cellular phone, or security system. So I have to clear one thing. What is host? What is host? The host that which generates the signals, the messages throughout the network. So such as a large computer, a desktop, where the processes go through. There is a website, as you can see, www.wub.wpt. So there is a host which controls the system, which controls the total domain of the website. That is known as the host. So such as a large computer, desktop, laptop, workstation, cellular phone, or security system, they are the hosts. So a device in this definition can also be a connecting device. So if we want to make the interconnection between these things, that is the word interconnection. So you need to have some connecting devices that are the main sources of networking, such as a router which connects the network to other networks. There is a single network that connects the other networks. As a router, that can be a switch. That can be a switch. What is the switch? What is the router? We will deeply learn in the next sections. But I can give you an overview of networks and switch. The network is interconnection of set of devices. So what is router and what is switch? There is a difference between router and switch. A router could get some service from a particular server and it distributes all of its users that has been connected to it, but a switch just gives connection to certain user, to a certain host, which connects devices together. That means that every router is not a switch, but every switches that has been consists of a router. So there is a modem. Modem means modulator demodulator. So we just make it a contraction of words and make it a single name, that's modem, which changes the form of data and so on. That means modulation demodulation has been done through the modem. Okay. So that will be the spirit of the interconnections or internet. Okay. What are the network criteria? How can we say that this thing is network? We have no some definitions behind that. There may be interconnection and all other things, but there are some attributes that we can understand. What are the basics of networks? How we can say that is a network and that's not a network? How we can differentiate it? Okay, let's go on. What are the criteria? First of all, the performance that can be measured in many ways. Transit time, amount of time required for a message to travel from one device to another device. If there is a device, if there is another device, transit time means the amount of time that has been spent throughout the message has been sent to transmitter to the receiver end. Okay, the response time. The response time is the time elapsed between an inquiry and a response. That is the part why we can say that is the inquiry and response. If a data has been transmitted through to this channel and go through to the receiver end R, so it should have to be respond. It should have to respond to it. Whether the data it should take or it should abort. Okay, it should take or it should abort. If the data, if it should be abort, not abort, it is just taking the data in order to that response. That is called the response time. A time elapsed between an inquiry and a response. As I can say, as I have said in the previous some lectures, that's the protocol behind that. If the protocols are not matched to each other, the interconnection will not be established. So the main thing is that the interconnection should have to be established. First of all, that is the transit time. That's the amount of time that required for a message to travel from one device to another. You can say it to the transmitter to receiver end. And the response time, that the receiver end, the receiver have an inquiry whether it should take or it should abort. Should not take, just like this. And by this there is a time of elapsed time. So that is gonna make a certain difference between a network's parameter of performance. The number of users, if the number of users increases, so the performance level will go down. We have to just adjust transit time and response time to make it clear, to make the performance better. The type of transmission medium, which type of transmission medium that they use, is it a broadband transmission medium or gigahertz terahertz range transmission medium that is known as fiber optic cables, or it's a satellite communication receiver and transmitter. So this type of things in wireless transmission medium, there are a lot of problems, but in wired there are lesser problems, lesser deficit in sending the bits. So hardware capabilities and software efficiency, that is also important things. Which hardware is enable to make it a proper connection, interconnection between, establish a proper interconnection, that is the network criteria. Second thing is reliability. That is a measure of frequency of failure and the time needed to recover network robustness. So there are some network robustness, right? So these are some reliabilities, a measure of frequency of failure and the time needed to recover network robustness, how it should recover itself, how the network is so robust that it could recover itself from the failure, how many times it gets failed. So that's the thing of the network reliability. If you say I use fiber optic cables besides the LAN cables or coaxial fibers, not the coaxial fibers, coaxial cables, fiber optic cable has a good reliability than the other two that I have told you. That's the LAN and the cable connections. Okay, why? They have less frequency of failure, they took lesser time to travel the data through to it than the LAN cable and the coaxial cable. Last but not the least is the security. It's a very much important thing. How much secure our network should have to be. So the protecting of data from unauthorized users, that's the thing. We will learn it clearly when we go through the transmission medium lectures on our next tutorials. We will learn about it. Then the security comes forward. There are some eavesdropping on the wireless medium. So how we can recover it? How we can protect our data from the unauthorized users? That is also the criteria of a network. That means the performance of the network.